I was diagnosed in 2019 with a rare health condition called prolidase deficiency, which basically just means a lack of collagen in my skin, which causes breakouts, ulcers, wounds on my feet, leading to extreme pain, discomfort, and a lack of mobility. That, because I've had it for so long, once I was diagnosed, I was also classified as disabled, you know, with the blue badge and the mobility scooter. It's been a tough journey, I guess. But I want to find out what it's like at the other end of the tunnel, see people who've achieved great things, and maybe hope to help someone who watches this to feel like they can do something no matter what they may have going on behind the scenes, and maybe, just maybe, it'll help me. That's kind of what I hope for with doing this.
How does it feel to be disabled?
It's strange. It's definitely took a number of forms. When it first happened, I think I was definitely denying it, trying to be anything but that, because it was a word that signified my whole life being altered to what I expected to be a false hope of the future. But as I've met more people and started to talk about it, it does feel like in more of a community. And it's strange. When it first started, I used to feel like everyone was looking at me all the time, watching me limp or whatever. But since I've accepted the word, it just feels like a normal thing now. And I don't feel the world looking at me as much as it used to. So I guess it's a community, but it's also something that's really personal to me, because I've got something so different going on to a lot of people who have this.
How has your disability affected your identity?
I think I've let what I have going on consume my identity, and I'm starting to come out of the shadows a little bit now, which is one of the reasons why I want to do this, to meet great people and tell their stories, to help me reclaim a bit of my own identity and use what they have learned, coping mechanisms, how they've overcome the bad things that happen to them, to not be defined by the bad things that have happened to them.
What is your relationship with sport?
I've never been the most athletic person, but before all these problems started, which now is coming on nearly 5.5 years that I've had this going on, I'd say it was definitely a form of exercise. It was fun. You know, despite not being the best, I used to always enjoy playing sport. I used to play with my brother a lot, and obviously that's kind of, it dwindled, and then it dwindled more, and then it flickered away. So right now, my relationship with sport is that I see it as something that's out of reach, that's nowhere near my own capabilities. But maybe these people that I'm going to meet are going to help me to see that it's a universal thing, it's an inclusive thing, and no matter who you are and what you've got going on, there's always something you can do to get involved in sport, and it can really help your mental health, your confidence, and all these kind of things. So I'm excited and eager to see what sport can do for people, and hopefully maybe something for me. I've been looking high and wide for places that help people overcome their disability through sport. And to be honest, if you're looking for that kind of thing, look no further than Merseyside Blind and VIFC, which is where I've come today to talk to the coach and a few of the players to find out how this wonderful, wonderful facility has helped change their lives for the better.
In blind football, I started out as being one of the sighted goalkeepers. So then I sort of, with a couple of injuries, I've just moved over into the coaching. So I've done a bit of a player coach role, and then in the last 3 or 4 years, I've moved. No, 4 or 5 years, I've moved over into coaching, just head coach with both teams. So we've got a blind team and a visually impaired team as well. So I'm head coach for both. So that's sort of how I got involved with a player, and then I've moved over.
What do you think are some things about VI football that would surprise someone who's never seen it before?
How quick it is, how physical it can be at times, and the skill and quality of the play. The plays and stuff are really quick. The dribble is so quick, and most sighted people won't understand or believe how quick they can be. We've got different levels of play. We've got sort of really beginner level players, and then right up to England standard. So the sessions are based around sort of what their needs are, but the sessions are about basic ball work, and then allowing the players to develop their skills away from our sessions as well. So it's all about doing the basics and doing the basics really well. If they can do that, then when they get into a game situation, they can then add the speed to it. So in blind football, you use ball with ball bearings in. In partially sighted football, it's the colour of the ball. The other differences are more sort of around foot cell rules. So the ball's it doesn't bounce as much. So it's just little differences that make it a lot easier. In blind football, when you're going to tackle someone, you actually say "voi," which is "I'm here." So you're letting the player that you're coming to tackle or trying to tackle that you're going to be doing that tackle, so which you wouldn't do in mainstream football.
In what ways have you seen your players grow in confidence through joining the team and getting involved with some disabled sport?
I think because we have sort of grassroots players right the way up to England players. We have quite a few that have started out. You're not too sure how they're going to get on, and then they end up in the England team. So we've got the players that play for both teams, partially sighted and England players, and you see how they've grown from young kids right the way through to sort of established England players. I think the confidence and stuff, and then you get other kids that might not have the ability to go to England, but they keep coming back for sessions and they're enjoying it, and so the confidence grows the more that you do something, and the more that you feel cared about and supported.
How do your players inspire you?
I'll give an example of one player, and I'll name him just because Roy Turnham. Roy Turnham has played football, athletics and cricket for his country. He also plays music, he plays the guitar, he plays drums and he sings, and he's visually impaired. So for me, that always allows you to think about what you can achieve by hard work and dedication, and we've got other players that inspire me every time I come to sessions and stuff. So for me, it's a great feeling to come and be head coach of the club, because we actually got players and coaches within the sessions and stuff that are really good at what they do, and I think it's just one of those things where we need to be able to be more encouraging and more supportive of everybody. So they inspire me every time I come to sessions.
I was lucky enough to speak to first team player Joe Johnson, who's been at the club since. Joe, how long have you been involved with VI football?
I got involved with Merseyside just after the Paralympics in 2012, so be about going on 10 years now. After the Paralympics, if I'm remembering right, they did a load of taster days for different sort of sports you could do, and there was one in Liverpool at Greenbank Sports Centre in the South End. So we went down and they were doing loads of different stuff. They were doing this goal ball and like wheelchair sports as well. And before the Paralympics, I didn't know visually impaired people could play sports. So then I was only 9 at the time. So I got involved mainly for something to do, because I couldn't play for all the teams my mates played for, or the school team or anything like that. All of my family and friends that have seen it have always said the first thing they notice about it is how rough it is, basically. I had someone compare it to rugby league once, because you're allowed a forearm on your opponent at all times. You're not really meant to push, but whether or not the referees enforce it is a little bit sort of depends on the game. So it can get quite physical, and obviously you just have people run into each other on the boards sometimes because they're just not careful.
How do you think sport can positively affect someone's mental health, and has it positively affected your mental health?
Yeah, I'd say it has, absolutely. I think it's improved me fitness, especially before the pandemic. I'm not in as good nick now, like, but obviously fitness-wise, and you know, being physically fit, trying to be physically fit, going to the gym, all that sort of thing, it does improve your mental health, as sort of cringe as it might sound to say that. And also you see yourself improving, so you feel like, you know, you're good at things and you feel maybe better about yourself, and it's a challenge and you have loads of experiences you wouldn't have had otherwise, so I think it does improve your mental health, absolutely, yeah.
And how can sport help to grow someone's confidence about their own disability?
Well, for me, I was always in mainstream school, so I was always in school with kids who weren't disabled, so I never really knew that many people that were also visually impaired, and then it sort of puts you in a space, especially if you've been in a mainstream environment, where you're not sort of like the minority, basically. It puts you with people that are similar to you, that sort of understand your problems, and then maybe it helps you to see your disability in a different way through the unique aspects of the sports that you do. That's how it's been in my experience anyway. One of the negative things is that as you start to sort of progress, maybe if the sport isn't as well funded, life sort of gets in the way. So I don't normally live in Liverpool, I normally live in Sheffield, I'm a student, and there's just nothing out there in terms of blind football, and when they did run sessions they just didn't really tell people when they were on. But I think the positive aspects far outweigh the negative aspects. The negative aspects, in my opinion, is often the way it's governed and ran. I think that can get in the way of it for some people.
How wrong is the misconception that disabled people can't be active and can't get involved in sport?
It couldn't be more wrong. It's just a misconception about disabled people in general. Obviously, I've said then I'm a student and I'll be sat at like a table in a classroom or in a bar or something, and I'll be speaking to someone and I'll get my cane out to go to the toilet, and they'll go, "Wait, you're obviously impaired." I'm like, "Yeah," because people have a certain conception of how disabled people should be. It ranges from obviously disability to disability, and it leads to people thinking that you can't be active when you absolutely can. You just have to be placed in the right environment for it.
Well, this place is amazing. Hearing the players and the coaches talk about how it's genuinely changing their lives for the better, improving their mental health, making them feel like they're wanted, like you can do anything, like you can achieve anything they want to in life, which is what, you know, we're all the same. That's what we should be feeling like. I'm here this evening at Greenbank Sports Academy to have a little look at the facilities, watch some power football training and see how places like this can really help people. After watching some power football training, it was clear who was the standout player. It was Marcus Harrison, a local lad who has been at Greenbank since the age of 6 and has grown up to be considered one of the best players in the country.
The biggest achievement was winning the European Championships with England and Finland, and I won the Golden Boot in that tournament as well, so that was a good tournament for me. Won the Premiership the past 4 years in a row as well, so yeah, that's good, and I've won the FA Cup twice, so yeah, definitely biggest finished third in the World Cup as well, but hopefully win it this time. That's next year.
How important has sport and power football in particular been to your life personally?
Yeah, sport changed my life. Really, I started playing power hockey in Greenbank when I was 6. And then when I was like 11, started playing wheelchair football. And I've met loads of mates really become more confident because of it. And then I ended up going to uni to study football science. I probably wouldn't have done that if I wasn't like participating in sport. And then through that, I've ended up like travelling a lot around the world and stuff like that. Met some friends from all over the world. And yeah, like without sports, I wouldn't be doing anything. There's loads of different sports for different disabilities and different people. Whether it's competitive or just participating in sport. Yeah, there's loads of different types, especially with like the Paralympics as well. Like it just shows that like our like whatever variety of sports there are, and all the different types of disabilities that can participate in sport.
After having a look around the great facilities and catching a glimpse at how the sport of power football works, it's clear that Greenbank Sports Academy is a wonderful place to come and play sport. To learn a little bit more about their process, I sat down with coach Pete Wyman.
How long have you been involved with Greenbank?
God. Since 1995, I think. Well, I've worked in the Greenbank since 2009. We look to develop the chairs, develop sports, develop athletes, just that whole thing of working with people on a regular basis and people fulfilling their potential. Yeah, that's about like.
And how inspiring is it to see the heights that people who come here can get to?
Yeah, I love that. We have some very special sports people here. We have wheelchair racers. We've got Nathan Maguire come here. He won the Commonwealth Championships. You got Abdi that comes here on a regular basis, and he's a GB wheelchair basketball player. Roy Turnham came here. He's a B1 GB footballer, and then you've got Marcus Harrison there, who's one of the best power chair footballers in the world. So yeah, seeing these people do their business is great. Yeah.
Do you think that sport and exercise and fitness can change a disabled person's life?
I know so. There's no doubt about it. It's not for everyone, obviously, because you can be into art or you can be into anything. But lots of people, athletes I've worked with and sports people I've worked with, it does change their lives, there's no doubt about it. And lots as well, lots of people.
What's the one thing that you would tell someone who's disabled, who wants to get involved in sport, but didn't know if they felt confident enough to do it? What would you tell them?
Yeah, it's an interesting one there. We've got people here which I talk to on a regular basis, say, come on, do it, and then they take it. Sometimes takes a month, 2 months before they actually get the confidence to come and do it. So it's that thing about feeling safe and being in a place where they're safe to try and have a go. It doesn't matter if you fail. Failure's not a problem. Just crack on. So it is an issue, but it's something that I just encourage people to get on with it, and we provide as secure an environment as we can for them to try things.
After all the talk about Roy Turnham, it's clear who I need to go and have a chat with next.
Condition, so it's a hereditary condition. So my mum has the same condition as me. It's called rod cone dystrophy, so it's to do with the cells that make up your retina. A lot of deterioration in the retina, which obviously that's the kind of the part of your eye that reflects light, takes light, sends that message to your brain. So by the time I was sort of 6 or 7, those cells had kind of deteriorated to a point where I could just about see whether a light was on or off. Had some colour definition up until that point, but yeah, as I said, that sort of deteriorated. But I'd always got around and adapted and played sport through sound, because I never really had enough vision to do, for it to be of much use. For me, sport was just always a part of my life. I was fortunate to be in a family where sport was already a big thing. I was fortunate that my parents, who are both visually impaired, were very keen sports people themselves. And unlike a lot of people who are kind of, maybe they're the only person in their family who has a visual impairment, or maybe it's something that's come to them later on in life, I guess I was able to have some of the barriers negotiated for me, in that they knew a lot about the pathways and what was available for me. They made sure that I was integrated in mainstream school. I remember my dad showing me how to hold a cricket bat at the age of 4 years old, and my older brother, who's also visually impaired, I had him to look up to. I think some of my other highlights are more around kind of seeing, I've got a passion for sort of in making sure that other people get the opportunity to compete in sport as well, and seeing other people get the bug for visually impaired sport is really important for me. Seeing another visually impaired person who didn't necessarily think that it was possible for them to play tennis or play football or whatever, and seeing them actually, that light bulb effect when they're like, wow, I can do this thing, that's quite important. And I've seen that on kind of many occasions, to be honest, and it's a big thing. I never really associated, and still don't really associate, my disability with the skills that I do. I'm in a situation where I grew up, and because of my background, I never felt like my disability held me back, stop it as preventing me from doing something like that. I think football was a different situation because, and again, not because of the disability itself, more because of what was available at the time. So when I was growing up as a child and as a teenager, there was very little opportunity to play blind football with and against other blind people in the UK. So my experiences of playing football, which I loved, were very much kind of 1v1 with my brother, or small groups at school, but with, I went to a mainstream school, so predominantly with people who could see. So my sort of experiences of football, I didn't really get to experience playing competitive football till I was in my 20s. So in terms of the challenges to overcome, I would say that it was more to do with the opportunities that were available than it was the disability itself. Blind football existed. I think England played their first blind football match back in 1996 when I was 11 years old, but there wasn't really an opportunity for me to play in a local club until 2008. So that's a long time to kind of be without that sort of opportunity to play football on an equal level. And in fact, the first couple of years of the Merseyside club, we held our training sessions there before moving to the outdoor venues. But the thing is about somewhere like, you go to the Greenbank Sports Academy and you're not treated like, it's not a shock to the staff when somebody walks in with a disability. It's just like, there's this atmosphere where there's an automatic acceptance, and you don't have to negotiate this, like, oh my God, there's somebody in a wheelchair, what do we do with them? Or, oh my God, there's somebody with this disability, how do we accommodate them? It's accepted, though.
You mentioned before that your brother was a big role model to you. How does it feel that, because of all the things you've achieved, you're now a role model to young people like Joe or like Julie or anything like that?
Well, it's all about creating a legacy, I think. To some people it's more important than others, but it's a very important thing to me.
So I've had the opportunity to speak to people from all levels of disabled sport, from a local angle to coaches, and then to people in the England setup like Marcus or like Roy. But now I've got the opportunity to jump on a Zoom call with someone who has very, very recently hit the heights of disabled sport, winning a bronze medal at the Olympics, followed by a gold medal at the home Commonwealth Games in Birmingham. I had the chance to speak to Jack Hunter Spivey, a fellow Scouser and now gold medalist.
Just first, as a little background, how did you get into sport?
So I started playing table tennis at the age of 10. So my family moved from Liverpool to Widnes, and I went to like a youth club that was for like disabled and deprived kids, really. That we met kids in like a similar situation. We did art and crafts. We had an evening meal and stuff like that. And there was a table tennis table, and that was really the first time I'd noticed table tennis and found out what it was, and I just fell in love with the sport ever since, really.
Yeah, so fast forward to this year at the Commonwealth Games, you win the final point. What's the first thing that goes through your head?
It's so hard to explain sometimes that winning point, because you visualize something for so long, and having my friend and family in the crowd watching me play for the first time in a home games is a feeling that I'll never forget. And just looking up at all my friend and family and my girlfriend in the crowd, and just watching their reaction, it was so surreal just to know that we'd actually done it, and as a team we've done it together, and yeah, it's such a special feeling.
Yeah, so also, how did it feel to bring a medal back to Liverpool as well? So I know you're very big on your kind of city values as a Scouser.
Yeah, definitely. It means everything to bring a medal back for Liverpool. I think we've got a strong history with sport. We've got amazing sports will come back, and just to be part of that history, just even a small part of it, is such an amazing feeling for me, just to represent Liverpool at the highest level. One of the big motivators for me for playing table tennis at a high level is that I want to use my story and my journey and my achievement as a vehicle to help other people. It's a massive motivator for me to move forward, is to show people that anything's possible.
I've been asking everyone this question. How wrong is the misconception that disabled people can't get involved in sport?
Yeah, I think that's completely wrong. I think it's the opposite, if I'm honest. I think the opportunities that disabled people have to get into sport is bigger than it ever has been. I think Paralympic sport is more prevalent than it has been. The health benefits are incredible for disabled people to get involved in, and I would definitely advocate anyone to get involved in sport. And it's the complete opposite way. I think getting involved in the sport can definitely change your life, and you should definitely do it if you can do.